Speak about horses for courses. It always just feels right to see a Formula One car on the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, especially when said Formula One car is a 780 horsepower Williams FW31. We've seen 3 different winners at the opening 3 rounds of the Batteries Not Included Championship. Will we see a 4th today? Find out with us as we welcome you to Belgium for round 4 here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Samuel Ryman, and alongside me in the booth is Johan Vandenbeld. Behind the scenes doing all of the button pushing is our director Sean Ambrose, and he is using camera sets provided by Dougie Beard. Johan, Spa is certainly one of the most historic and popular tracks when it comes to Formula One racing, but for those who might just be getting their feet wet with the sport, why exactly is that?
A night, a racing driver and a mayor walk into a hotel. This sounds like the beginning of a lame joke, but the result of this meeting in 1920 is what we race on today. Spa-Francorchamps. For almost 100 years, this track has been loved by racing fans both in real life and online. The history of this Belgian course is rich. It started with an immense 15-kilometer circuit in 1921, which connected the towns of Francorchamps, Malmedy and Stavelot. After decades of racing, the circuit saw some track changes in the 80s. Due to safety concerns, the length was reduced to around 7 kilometers and roughly the layout we see today. But even though the circuit has been shortened, it still breathes history. Corners like Eau Rouge, Pohon, Stavelot and Blanchimont are respected by all drivers that visit the track. Now if we go back to 2009, the Belgian GP will be mostly remembered for what could have been. Giancarlo Fisichella was only a second short at the finish to score the first victory in Force India's history. Will history repeat itself today, and will we see a former champion on the top step of the podium? Or will an outsider rise up to the challenge in the Ardennes forest? We'll find out very soon, but before that, let's hop on board the GSRC FW31 Williams Formula One car for a lap around Spa-Francorchamps.
Alright, we've got Clayton McLeod in the GSRC Williams, so let's do a lap around Spa. Coming down to La Source, this is usually a great place to pass, but when you come to it on the first lap, you really need your head on a swivel. It's so easy to clatter into another car and end your race before you even get through the first turn. From there, you'll plunge downhill into Eau Rouge. It's easily flat out in the Williams, but it'll be very important to try to scrub off as little speed as possible. Off the top of Radillon, you now fly down the Kemmel Straight. If you can withstand the dirty air, being within the draft of the car ahead will give you a great opportunity to go on the attack. The big issue is with the added speed, you need to make sure not to outbrake yourself into Lecumbe. With the track switching back, it's possible to see successful passes from either side. From there, you come to Malmedy, which needs a little lift to make it through. Then it's back downhill towards Rivage. There might be opportunistic passes that happen here, but the toughest aspect of this corner is its off-camber nature. Cars will want to understeer badly. Immediately, you're thrown into no name and the valley opens up before you. You've got no time to take in the sights because up next is Pouhon. The incredible downforce of a modern F1 car means you're only lifting in the first half and then powering off the second part of the corner. Be careful not to straddle the curbs on the exit, and finally you're at the bottom of the hill. That brings us to Fagnes, where there is occasional passes, but it's tough to make it work. Switch sides again, and then you've got Stavelot. The first part of this turn is what matters because you don't lift until the second half. Getting a good run can make a huge difference in your lap or whether you can attack or defend on the car you're battling with. You're flat to the floor and straightening out the track along the backstretch, which eventually comes to Blanchimont. Stay in it and trust the downforce that comes with 190 mph speeds. Then slam on the brakes for the bus stop. The main thing you don't want to do here is crawl on top of those big red sausage curbs because they'll really upset the car. From off there, try to avoid wheel spin, and as you run towards the line, you've now hopefully finished a lap around Spa.
And as we wrap up our lap guide, the drivers are wrapping up practice right now ahead of a 10-minute qualifying session they're going to have at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. The fastest driver in practice, Joseph Fabian, by a second over the competition, but that could very well just be because he was attempting a qualifying run. But we do know that Fabian is a very fast driver. In fact, he dominated Suzuka last week around, and it moved him up to 4th in the standings. We'll take a look at those driver standings right here. Still got a little bit of work to go for Clayton to catch Clayton McLeod. Clayton won the season opener, finished 2nd at round 2 and 3rd at round 3. He'll be hoping not to continue that pattern because his season goes on for 12 weeks. Ian Ash moves up to 2nd in the points. Tommy Inhola also making forward progression. The only driver on the screen there moving back a little bit is Adam Chemlewski, but he was very fast at Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Unfortunately, I don't see him here today, so he may be off of our top 5 graphic by the time we get back to racing at Interlagos in 1 week's time. Anyhow, qualifying underway now. Johan, these drivers have 10 minutes to try and set their fastest time and move them up on the board. It's kind of easy to pass here at Spa, but still you want to be starting toward the front.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to have... especially, I was talking earlier with the race that some of the drivers are fearing that first corner of the race, the La Source hairpin, and they fear that because of course it's a very tight, sharp corner to the right, that some incidents might happen. So you want to start as far to the front as possible, not only to avoid possible incidents that might happen there, but you also just want to have as little as possible people in front of you, so you can just look forward, don't have to worry too much about overtaking the rest, just stream on ahead and grab the victory.
Yeah, and these drivers will be racing out here for 29 laps today. Johan, let's take a look at our race details.
Yeah, as the viewers have probably seen, this is round 4 of the 12-round championship of batteries not included. The 4 watermarks after that row, that means that there's 4 drop weeks. The 4 worst results, which driver will be taken away at the end of the season. The race length, normally Formula 1 races are 300 kilometers. This series does it 200 kilometers. So 2/3 of the length, and that comes down to 29 laps around the Arden Forest circuit. Setups will be open, so that means they can change it just to their liking with a 67% fuel limit. That means that the drivers probably have to make one stop out there today, not included any incidents that might happen that require them to have an earlier pit stop. There's no incident cap, that means that going off the track will not give you any penalties. The admins will keep an eye on it. If you really abuse that limit, you will get penalized at the end. The points are the official iRacing points. That means that at the end of the race, the admins will look at the strength of field of the race, all the iRating of all the drivers, and based on that they will calculate how many points the drivers would have scored in a normal iRacing session, and based on that they will award points at the end of the race.
Alright, the drivers have had time to do their outlaps, and now they're coming around to complete their first time lap here in this 10-minute qualifying session. They can turn as many laps as physically possible during this 10-minute session to see what kind of lap times they can get. I think our first drive on an actual time lap is the driver of the number 8 car, Floris Bichard, who is working his way through Blanchimont right now, up to the bus stop.
Yeah, the Dutch driver going through the bus stop section now, going back on the throttle. A very short rundown. Once you're in front at the bus stop, you probably will beat the other people at the line. He sets a 1:47.6. It's a good lap time from Floris, immediately over a second quicker than he has been in practice.
And Joseph Fabian not too far behind him though, puts a 1:46.7 on the board. So that's going to be our early time to beat here. And spin out of a final turn, that was Sam Winton. Let's take a quick look at our weather conditions, Johan, and this might explain why we just saw Winton go for a spin. It's fairly cold.
Yeah, exactly. It's only 29 degrees Celsius on the track today, 26 degrees Celsius ambient weather. You can see the calculation up to Fahrenheit above your screen now. But it is very cold, yeah, so the drivers might have been used with earlier practice sessions in this week to maybe drive a little bit more medium or even warm weather conditions when they did their practice. And now that they are in the race session, the track is suddenly a lot colder. That means that they have to make last minute decisions. Do I change my setup to really play a part in that? I try to adapt my setup with that. That's difficult, of course, because there's only 30 minutes of practice before this race starts and only 10 minutes of qualifying. And that last part especially, that will be a very big factor, because you just mentioned one driver spinning in his first qualifying lap. If you spin in your qualifying lap, you only have 4 real possibilities. So you really have to make sure that every lap counts here, because even if you make a little off track or something, your lap gets dequalified. So it's really important in this case to have a really good qualifying session where mistakes are not appearing.
Yeah, here we see Bishar is actually doing 2 laps on his first stint. He remains second fastest. I mean, 10 cars, actually 11 cars put a lap time after he crossed the line, but he wasn't able to improve on his time, but still sitting a solid second. Ahead of Clayton McLeod, who also just ran 2 laps out there, wasn't able to improve on his second lap. So Fabian Bishar remains your provisional front row for now, but still lots of lap times left to come in.
Joseph Fabian, the pole setter for now, the professional pole setter, did also complete the second lap time. He's coming out of the pits as we speak. He improved once again, doing a 46.4, a little bit over 2/10 quicker. And currently the gap between Joseph Fabian and Floris Bishar in P2 is almost 9/10 of a second. Big gap in the advantage of Joseph.
21 drivers currently in the session, 13 of them have put on time, so congratulations once again to the batteries not included guys on getting a decent field out here. 4 races into the season, and we've seen over 20 cars for all 4 races. A new driver sitting in third right now, you'll see that at the top of your screen, Antonio Ortiz Poveda has jumped up to third on the board. Still no one joining Joseph Fabian in the sub 147s. Joseph Fabian currently sitting on provisional pole, as we mentioned, with a 146.499.
And on screen at the moment, Antonio Ortiz Poveda, currently sitting in P3. The Iberian driver, he's around half a second behind Floris Bishar. It's quite a big gap that he has to close up to move up a spot. On screen now, Marcus Gestal is one of the newcomers, one of the new faces that we've seen in the series. The Scandinavian driver is in P14, 149.7 at the moment. Coming across the line, he will start a new lap right now to try and improve himself a little bit. He's less than a tenth behind Kevin Mills in front of him. The Scandinavian can really settle down and keep his head down. He might make himself, bring himself towards the top 10.
Bishar heading out to start another run. That was just finishing up his outlap there. See if he can gain any of that 9/10 of a second deficit he has on Joseph Fabian and mix the front row up a little bit. Our 5 drivers yet to turn a lap are now down to 4 drivers, because Sam Winton just crossed the line and went 12th. Johnny Bell, Jacob Castrick, Silvio Hurt and Dave Peterson. We're waiting to see if they'll get out there and set a lap time for us.
Several of those drivers opting to not set a qualifying time. Jacob, Silvio and Dave all are still sitting in the pits and not out on track. Johnny Bell, however, is out on track. Looking at the speed with which he is rolling down at the moment out of Lacoon towards sector 3, I think that is, he's not very quick, and we have only 1.5 minutes on the board. He might be able to set a lap time at the last moment, but I don't think he'll be there.
Here comes Henkel across the line. He's about 1/10 of a second off of his fastest lap there. He was, and he remains 10th. Behind him, Overbay was 9th. He just jumped up to 7th on the board. Few more drivers coming around to complete their time lapse in the dying moments of this qualifying session. Floris Bishar being one of them. As we mentioned, 1:47.3, his fastest time so far. He's got a huge gap to overcome if he wants to do anything with Fabian, but he wouldn't be out here on the track if he didn't think he couldn't do it. He crosses the line, he's not going to do it that time around, and he's not going to do it at all because he is pulling his car to a halt.
He did his best though. He was in the draft of Christophe Boussy that was right in front of him, trying to get some extra speed on the run down towards the bus stop chicane, but to no avail for Floris Bishar, and the Dutch driver will stay in P2 for now.
And the annoying thing, especially when it comes to qualifying in these cars, Johan, is you can put the absolute perfect lap together and just miss your marks by about 10 feet or so in that final chicane, the bus stop, and you lose all that time.
Oh man, I hate the bus stop chicane. The amount of times that something like that has happened to me while driving here, man, I cannot count on 2 hands anymore. And you're absolutely right, it's such an easy corner to just brake a little bit too late, or even on the exit, just having a little bit too much throttle on, and just almost spinning yourself out, getting very loose in exit. That will not hurt you, that will not help you at all. It's a really difficult part of the circuit to get right, and well, we could see that several times already in qualifying today.
Well, the checkered flag is out, and you see some drivers pulling off at the end of their laps, so we still have a couple minutes left, though, for drivers who have started the lap to wrap it up. Johnny Bell is one of those, and I think he's definitely worth getting the camera on, because he has yet to turn a time, and that might count against him. I'm not sure if he picked up an incident point for abusing the AstroTurf on the exit of Pujon there, but the driver of this number 95 car, I mean, if he turns what he did in practice, it will only move him up 1 position. He's currently 18th. It will move him up to 17th. However, it could very well be the case that the lap time he turned in practice was in a race simulation run. And we'll see what he can do with qualifying here.
Yeah, going through Blanchimont, Johnny Bell, just a few more corners to go, and then we'll see if he indeed got an off track, or if he actually manages to get a qualifying time. That is difficult, very difficult bus stop chicane. Well, he goes through it very quickly, very well. Good exit as well. He comes across the line and he doesn't set a time. So I think Johnny Bell did indeed have an off track during his lap, and that means that Johnny will start the race in P18.
And I believe Clemens Modal just jumped up to 3rd a couple of moments ago. You would have seen that on the top of your screen where we've been listing the top 3. Still 1 car out there on track, Edgar Santinelli. He's currently 16th on the board. He would have to improve a couple of seconds to improve his position. Bit of a gap between himself and Kevin Mills, currently lined up alongside him in 15th.
Yeah, he also just got an off track, and you can see him swerving across the track at the moment. Edgar is just trying to get a little bit of feeling in the car before the race will start.
And so let's see how they will start. Well documented that Joseph Fabian and Floris Bichard will be our front row. They pretty much sat there the entire qualifying session. Clemens Modal was a bit of a newcomer up to the top. He got 3rd place there towards the end, ahead of Clayton McLeod, points leader, lined up in 4th. Pavetta is back down there in 5th place, ahead of Robert Grosjean on row number 3. Behind them, Michael Overbay and Daniel Lerchner, Marcus Dresdel and Lucas Pironi round out the top 10.
Yeah, the first driver in outside of the top 10 is Christoph Bussi. He starts in P11, and flanked by him is Stefan Henkel. Sam Winton starts the race in 13th, just in front of Reed Miller. Kevin Mills, one of the Free2Sport drivers, starts in 15th position, and just behind him Edgar Santinelli. Ronald Overbay is the last driver with a quali time. He starts the race in 17th, and behind him there's 4 drivers without a quali time, starting with Jakub Karstovic in P18, Dave Peterson in 19th, Silvio Hirt in 20th, and the last driver, Johnny Bell, starts the race in 21st position.
Just waiting for Jacob Karstovic to grid up if he opts to at all. If not, they might be sitting here for another minute if he's going to elect to start this race from pit road. And as you mentioned, Johan, some drivers may elect to do that given the trickiness not only of the La Source hairpin, but also the run down through Eau Rouge as a pack and up to Les Combes. And Jacob is on the grid, so here we go. The lights are about to come on, and 29 laps of racing action is about to get underway here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for round 4 of the Batteries Not Included Championship. Lights are off and away they go. Horrible launch offline by Fabian. That's going to allow Bichard maybe to take a lead on the outside. In La Source, he drives it in deep. A couple of drivers driving it in deep, and Fabian gets on the loud pedal well out of turn 1. Bichard dropping back all the way to 3rd behind Pavetta, who has had a great start from 5th on the grid to 2nd.
Jacob Karstovic hit the wall on the exit of La Source. He tried to get on the power, but he hit a little bit too much power, and he popped himself into the wall. Marcus Gressel had a horrible start. He looped around one of the drivers in front of him, but it seemed like everyone could continue without too much damage.
The pass was made for second as they worked their way down the Kemmel Straight. Bichnar got back by Poveda, but Poveda still up 2 spots from where he started. Clayton McLeod and Clemens Modal rounding up top 5. Lurchner, another driver who's had a good start. He started 8th, he's up to 6th. And another driver back there who got a good launch off the line, Stefan Henkel. He started in 12th position and currently seeing him listed in 9th.
Yeah, very good. At the moment, everything is stretched out a little bit. And I want to say Joseph Fabian had an amazing start, though. That's quite a gap that he has already made towards Floris Bissar. Almost 2 seconds that the Australian driver is in front of him. Really good start from him. And especially that battle between Floris Bissar and Clemens Model has helped him.
Yeah, Fabian really checking out over Bichar right now. He's almost got 2 seconds now. I believe last week at Suzuka we made the mistake of assuming, well, this just goes to show you that he has a much lighter fuel load, and Fabian went on and continued to dominate the race, driving it deep in the race, and we realised, okay, no, he's just very fast. Good battle for 3rd place going on, but not for Poveda. He has to abort the bus stop chicane, or else he would have been running 2 by behind. He's going to get slowed down for that, and he's going to lose 1, maybe 2 spots subsequently.
In the back of the screen you could see Reed Miller going wide. He tried to move, but at the same time he tried to move Marcus Gressel. I'll break him over to him.
Contact at the back of the screen there, and La Source, Kevin Mills was very deep into it and made slight contact with Reed Miller, but they both got away okay, but they both lost a spot to Christoph Buzzy because of it.
Oh, in Eau Rouge, Kevin Mills got countered by Reed Miller once again. Now luckily the both cars kept it straight and didn't send themselves to the wall there, because that's not a place that you want to make contact with another driver. Kevin Mills immediately doing an overtake, and Christoph Bussy setting himself up 1 position, retaking P12, sorry.
Of course, no need for these drivers to wait 2 laps or anything for DRS. These cars are the 2009 Williams Formula 1 car. That means they don't have DRS. Now, a good scrap has been going on for 3rd place this lap, and currently it is McLeod holding the position down ahead of Modal, and Poveda back in 5th place. These 3 have been switching these positions around in the opening lap early on, but it looks like Clayton has finally been able to check out from the battle for 4th. Naturally, a bit of blinking going on there for Poveda.
Yeah, Clemens Model was behind Poveda at the beginning of the lap. He has overtaken the Iberian driver. It seems like they're dropping the Iberian driver at the moment. Now luckily for Antonio, he doesn't have to look behind him that far, because Daniel Lerner, currently in P6, is quite a bit behind him, over a second.
I'm sure Lerner would be quite content with that though, knowing he started 8th and he's up to 6th quite... Oh wow, almost contact there. Poveda very deep on the brakes. That's going to hurt him. He's going to take a couple of moments to recover, get his tyres back up to temperature.
That's another move that I would do in lap 2 of the race. It's a very courageous move to brake that late, and you can see that it all went sour for Antonio there, because he has lost quite a bit of positions. Immediately under pressure by Kevin Mills there. I think a little bit of netco between the 2 drivers, because it seems like Antonio got a slight push. The Iberian driver has been falling down to P9.
And he's got ways to go to make his way up to Sam Winton in 8th place. Also, because Modal had to slow down to avoid him, he lost a lot of time to Lurchner. So they're close to 4th. There's a battle for 6th going on until he comes. Grosser holding off over Bay, and there's the aforementioned Winton right behind them.
Sorry, Edgar Sancinelli I see in the wall. Oh man, there was a free wide moment on Camel Straight. He got a bump by Johnny Bell, who was trying to overtake, and hard into the wall there. A little bit reminiscent of that moment that was earlier this year in the Formula 1 between Van Doorn, who was sent on the grass and also spun on Camel Straight. This hit was a little bit harder for Edgar Sancinelli.
Yeah, and unfortunately that's going to send him to the pits. So currently we have the cars of Marcus Dresdel, Jacob Karszewicz and Stefan Henkel already running into trouble early on here.
Dresdel just had a little spin himself, hit the wall slightly, but he is continuing out there on track with a little bit of damage.
So here, in the tail end of the top 10, things remain close, and into the wall goes Lurchner, and upside down. He had such a good, clean start to the race, but just lit the tyres too much out of a bus stop, and his race couldn't be done early.
We mentioned it earlier, the exit of the bus stop is very, very difficult, and Daniel's showing here what happens if you don't get it perfectly. Just, but like you say, Sam, just too much, too powerful on the throttle there, and just loops his car around. Tries to save it, but he cannot save himself from hitting the ball hard, and especially after flipping his car, I think that's the race over for Daniel.
So that'll move everyone in that battle we've seen going on around 6th, 7th, 8th. And they're all racing now, of course, for 5th, 6th, 7th. Driver holding that 5th place down is Robert Grozer. Another driver who's kind of flown under the radar here in the early stages, but he started 6th, he's up to 5th. Running well in the 19 car, but early stages here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps.
Floris Bizarre doesn't have the speed at the moment to put Joseph Fabian under more pressure. Joseph Fabian is just driving away. Last time around he did a 1:48. Lap before that as well. Floris Bizarre at the same time can only manages 39s. So that's almost half a second per lap that the Dutch driver is losing to the Australian.
We'll wait and see if any of these drivers are playing strategy games. Clayton McLeod running there in 3rd place. We know he likes to take a car deep in the opening stint of a race. That being said, he's already 3.5 seconds back of Beach now. I'm not sure how much strategy is going to help you out when you're about a second a lap slower than the car in front of you already. Oh, Model almost did exactly what Lurchner did the lap before. Fortunately, Clemens had less pressure from behind, so he was able to take the time, get on the brake pedal, and not get into the wall.
Yeah, Clemens Model made a mistake of going a little bit too wide on the curbstones of the exit there, and just that didn't help him at all, and he got very loose there. Sam Winton at the same time, as you can see on the screen, also went around in the bus stop chicane. He also did it himself, but that was before he actually went on the throttle, just steering a little bit too, well, not smooth enough on steering. That looped his car around, and he had to wait a very long time before there was a gap and he could continue.
Pass for 11th about to take place as they come down the Kemmel Straight. Pironi has a great run on Peterson, who doesn't really want to give him a whole lot of room on the outside heading into this complex. And Peterson able to hold off the challenge from behind. So nice defensive driver there, driving there by the driver of a 114 car, who continues to ride out in 11th place, up 8 positions from where he started. Peterson was one of the drivers who elected not to turn the time in qualifying.
Yeah, this is the closest battle that we see at the moment on screen. Lucas Pironi having a good race now. He's probably looking at the car in front of him with Dave Peterson, thinking like, I started 9 positions in front of him in qualifying. Why is he so much quicker? But as you say, Sam, Dave didn't set a qualifying time, and that is obviously helping stay in front of him. Sam Winton behind him is putting Lucas under a little bit of pressure, especially after that spin. Sam Winton had a very good race up until that point. He had made up 6 positions in the pro set, but he has lost everything until now, and he is now exactly at the position he started in.
Yeah, I think Silvio Hurt and Johnny Bell both ran into a bit of trouble a while ago. Bell was out of a race, and Hurt, I think, had to make an unscheduled stop. So, a bit of attrition early on for the drivers towards the back, but had some great racing up here in the top 10. Joseph Fabian still leading them around on lap 6 of 29. And Fabian, of course, this is going to be another good, solid points day for him if he's able to hold on to this top position all race long, because he's only been in 2 of the 3 races ahead of this one. But as we mentioned at the top of the show, these drivers will have 4 drop weeks at the end of the season.
Sorry, P11 is happening at the moment. Lucas Pironi this time has a great run out of Radion, makes the move out of the draft on Dave Peterson, and he makes the mistake before Lacombe. So it's Lucas Pironi, P11.
Yeah, obviously no DRS assistance here, but still a desired passing opportunity on the racetrack. as you mentioned, Johan, though, you're never going to be able to get it done unless you get a good run out of regular.
And the thing is, the move is probably made at the Lasource hairpin, because at the Lasource hairpin, Dave Peterson went a little bit loose and lost momentum that you, of course, carried all the way up to Lacoon. So the little loose momentum that Dave Peterson had, that gave Lucas the opportunity to make that move stick and bring himself a position up.
And I have a feeling Peterson might be about to lose 12th place very shortly to Sam Winton. They work their way up towards the bus stop.
Sam Winton, of course, was way further up the field before that little spin that he had in the bus stop, so I think that he is quicker than Dave Peterson. Dave Peterson outbrakes himself here. This will not help him on the exit of the bus stop chicane. Yeah, he hucks it all the way on the inside. That's easy pickings for Sam Winton, who will overtake him and will take P12.
So things around here might calm down now that they've switched their... Oh, maybe not. Sam Winton goes for spin. He's got to do all that again. Oh boy, really struggling to get back up to speed. It's really hard to, in these F1 cars, to remind yourselves, to remind yourself, Johan, you're thinking of the amount of time you're losing when you make the slightest mistake in this car. But the best thing you can do for yourself is be patient getting back up to speed, because if you try and do it too quickly, that's what happens. You just keep sliding around the place.
Yeah, exactly. The tires just heat up and you just keep spinning over and over and over again, and that will not help you. Obviously, Sam Winton is maybe struggling a little bit on corner exit today, especially when he goes back on the throttle, because this is the second time he has slight spin. Luckily for him, he can continue on board now with Michael A. Overbeek, currently sitting in 6th position. But this is actually a nice battle at the moment, Sam. It's Clemens Model in P4, Robert Grosser P5, Michael Overbeek P6, and Antonio Ortiz Poveda in P7. These drivers are not that close together. There's around a second between each of them, but the gap isn't growing at the moment. They're all staying roughly in the same position. So if someone makes a different strategy to that you can elevate yourself from P7 all the way to P4.
Yeah, and I think Overbay might be considering that. The completion of lap 6, Overbay was half a second quicker than Grosser as they come around this lap to complete lap 7. He was able to take another 2 tenths out, and now it's going to be harder for him to gain any more time because he's pretty much right in the air wake of Grosser and within striking range. Perhaps, as a matter of fact, if he's able to hit all of his marks for Rouge and Regalon here, he might be able to get a nice run. He's got the toe. In fact, I think we're about to see a change for 5th.
Michael Overbay is really in the tone now. The car in front of him, Robert Grosser, is defending the inside. He has to make a move around the outside of Lacoon, braking quite a bit later, but he gets it slowed down in time. Beautiful move from Michael Overbay. Very courageous on the braking. He makes it stick. He goes to P5. Robert Grosser doesn't give up though, immediately looking on the inside there. But not enough to try and make a move. Robert Grosser gets relegated to P6.
Now it's interesting also how despite the amount of switching of positions we saw in the opening few laps, the top 7, not perfectly, but they're almost exactly back in the order that they started the race, and running in 8th place behind them, Buzzy almost just threw it all away. In Pujol, he almost spun into the inside wall coming on the exit. Great save by the driver of the 91 machine.
We go to a replay of that incident, but like you say, that was almost throwing away his race there. Christoph has a good race so far, making up 3 positions currently in P8, but as you can see now on the replay, once he goes through Pujol, and this is a corner where you really have to trust the downforce levels of your car, just a bit hard over the curb, so his car unsettles himself, goes for a slide, keeps it out of the wall, and actually doesn't lose a position because Reed Miller behind him is still in P9.
Yeah, well, I was about to mention, Buzzy, right before all that happened, saying, you know, the top 7 is still the top 7, just in a slightly modified order. Buzzy's really one of our first big movers up there, up from 11th to 8th, and that he almost threw it away to last place. We rejoin this scrap going on for around 5th position.
Robert Grosjean still in quite a bit. He's still behind Michael Overbay. He probably still has to draft a little bit, but not close enough to try and make a move. Now, viewers might have just seen on the top of the screen Joseph Fabian setting the quickest lap time of the race. The Australian driver setting a 1:48.3, extremely quick with that lap time. He's well, almost a second quicker than Floris Pisa at the moment. The gap between the two drivers is currently 6.6 seconds.
But Buzzy in more trouble at the exit of Lake Holmes. Buzzy has gone for a spin. He wasn't as fortunate to keep off the wall this time.
Yeah, soft touch on the front nose, and I think that he might have to go to the pits to get a nose change there. And you can see it here. He's going through Lacombe, just loses the control here. Car goes for a spin and just almost keeps it out of the wall. Just a little bit too little. Touches it and loses several positions in the process.
Under his teammates with Lucas Pironi there, they're both running that old Brabham paint scheme that I believe it was Nelson Piquet had so much success with back in the day.
Yeah, P6 is still heating up. Robert Grosjean is under heavy pressure of Antonio Ortiz Poveda behind him. Antonio is very close through the bus-up chicane. Now run down towards La Source. That's probably too little to try and make a move. But if you have a good exit here, it seems like the Iberian driver has it way smoother than Robert in front of him. You can now hook yourself up in the draft and try and make a move. Now, I don't know if you remember the race in 2009, Sam, but this is really where Kimi Raikkonen made the move with Giancarlo Fisichella just out of the La Source. He mentioned, I think it was after a restart, basically the same, just hook himself up in the draft and make the pass here. Antonio is trying to replicate that on the outside, coming towards Lacombe. Can you brake later? He can brake later, but they're going still side by side. The second part of the corner goes to left. Oh, he goes almost for a spin. Keeps it out of the wall, but he loses all the time that he just gained, passing Robert Grosjean immediately. And that goes from an overtake to several seconds.
Yeah, nice save to keep it off the wall, but like we saw with Buzzy a while ago on his nice save, it spells trouble for you for the next lap. You know, your tyres are hot now, they're not as good as they once were, and now he's put himself at more risk of perhaps making another mistake like that again in the future. But still, great driving there as we rode on board. Give you an idea of what the driver sees, and maybe we'll keep it off of the hard stuff.
Another battle we're seeing at the moment on screen is a battle for P10 or P9, I think that's even. That's between Kevin Mills and Lucas Pironi. Lucas Pironi, of course, we saw him overtake Dave Peterson a few laps ago. Well, he's already driven 5 seconds away from Dave Peterson, so giant leaps that Lucas is making, and he's putting Kevin Mills, the UK&I driver, under pressure now. Kevin Mills is having a great race so far, making up 6 positions in the process, all the way from P15 in the grid, currently just inside the top 10. But I think that Lucas Pironi is putting him under more and more pressure. The last laps he was quicker every time, Pironi. But he's not able to make a move stick on Kevin Mills. Kevin just driving very consistently, very smoothly, and not really making any mistakes, and with that not giving Lucas any opportunity to make a pass.
Yeah, it could also just be a matter of Pironi wants to attempt the pass down this straight. The honest reality, though, of the situation is he's too far back from Mills to attempt that this time. Now, you mentioned earlier on, Johan, that Kevin Mills was one of those drivers little concerned about the start of this race, wanted to make sure he got through that. I wonder if the fact that he has had such a good race so early on, he might, you know, not necessarily put up too much of a fight against Lucas, but we'll see. We're halfway into a race now. Maybe he's changed his mentality. Maybe he's like, well, I'm in 9th place right now. I don't really want to give it up.
I mean, at the moment, Kevin just deserves that 9th place, because on pace alone he has overtaken Lucas and he's staying in front of him. And as long as Lucas cannot overtake him, maybe that's good strategy moves or just good defensive moves, I think that Kevin deserves the P9 position. But once again, especially in this section of the track, the P5 corners. Going here towards Stavolo, that is the point of the track that it seems like Lucas is just a little bit quicker. He hugs the apexes a bit better, and he just gains several car lengths on Kevin Mills. Now on the run towards Blanchimont, look at him hooking up in the draft. This is probably, he tries to run the outside, swerving from left to right, and at one point Kevin Mills is there, and Lucas cannot make the overtake stick. And he's still in the draft though, but I think it's a little bit too far to try and move in the bus step. That was very close there, almost touching each other in Blanchimont. On the exit here of the bus stop chicane, going over the AstroTurf, and that will hurt Lucas Pironi. We saw other drivers do that early in the race and looking himself around. Lucas just smart, not going too hard on the throttle. Stays behind him. Now he has a better exit out of La Source than he had last time. If he hooks himself up in the draft, he can put Kevin Mills under pressure. Going to Leclerc, going through a ruse. Radillon almost losing it. Lucas Pironi has completely to go over the asphalt on the right, and immediately he loses all the connection that he had with Kevin Mills. You cannot try and overtake on the UK driver.
Yeah, I think Pironi was trying to capitalise on the situation there, because Kevin Mills had a bit of a slide through La Source from what I saw, and I think Pironi probably noticed that as well. Maybe it just got a little bit greedy trying to make most of a bad situation for Mills. Fortunately, there was some runoff area for him to play with, and no harm, no foul. It just means if he's going to get ninth place, it's not happening this lap.
In the lead, Joseph Fabian is still going strong. The driver did a 48.3 last time around, did a 48.8 this time around. A little bit slower than what we've seen so far. Apart from the opening laps from Joseph, this has been his slowest lap so far. But still, the gap between him and Floris Bizar is growing. Floris doing low 49, so even when Joseph is a little bit slower, he's still extending his lead to the Dutch driver. Floris Bizar is currently 8.6 seconds behind him, but the Dutch driver is driving a little bit in no man's land, because he might be 8 seconds behind Joseph Fabian. He's also 8 seconds in front of Clayton McLeod, the Canadian driver, currently 17 seconds behind the lead, doing middle 49s, 49.5 last time around. Comfortably in the top 3 in the podium positions, but not able to make a fist towards Floris Bizar for P2.
And as we come to complete lap 12, Pironi is the first to come in for his scheduled stop. Now, of course, this will be for fuel and tyres.
And that's a smart move from Lucas Pironi, because if you make your pit stop now and you know that, for example, you're quicker than Kevin Mills, you can really make the difference. Now he's going up the stance, changing the towers.
McLeod is in the wall. Our championship leader is in the wall, down in no name, out of Rivage, and he is crabbing as he's going to try and make his way back to the pits in the damaged Ferrari. He was running in 3rd place, and he's skating off at Pujon. We'll get a replay of the incident right now.
Yeah, he has damage. Yeah, that's heavy damage. It seems like we go to a replay, but he for sure has suspension damage, because he's not able. He actually loops it around in the V5 corners and almost hits the wall once again now. Yeah, you can see it there, just a little bit too much throttle maybe. Car gets loose, hits the wall, and he actually will take a tow, I think, now, because that car seems very heavily damaged.
Yeah, he's beached it coming out of the Fanyes there. I'm wondering if he's waiting for a gap in traffic. The thing is, the field is so evenly spread out, I don't think he's going to find it. Oh, and not a good lap to be a Ferrari driver, I'll tell you that, because Ronald Overbay, also running with a Ferrari paint scheme, has had damage. We're continuing to watch McLeod make his way back to the pits here. See what happened to Overbay. Looks like something happened to him. Is that that's and that's what finished it off, coming out of Radilon. It looked like it was damaged before that though.
Yeah, he just went too hard. He steered in too quickly in a ruse and just hit the curbstone, and that just sent him around, and that was race over for Ronald over there.
Alright, so McLeod has made it back to the pits now. What's his team going to tell him? Can they fix the car, or is he done?
But it will help him to continue, because you never know what might happen with the people behind him. We already have seen quite a bit of attrition, and if you just can get your car repaired, you never know what's going to happen with the rest. You might win some extra positions by doing that. He's coming to a halt now. It seems like he's staying on the ground for quite a bit. I think that the mechanics are working on his car.
Yeah, gonna definitely have to work on it. This isn't gonna be quick. It's just a matter of can they get him back out there at all? Because if they can, there might still be a top 10 if this rate of attrition picks up with Hurt, Bell, Lurchner, Giersdal, Santinelli and Henkel already out of a race.
On screen at the moment we see Robert Grosser, the P5 driver, of course, winning one position because of the trouble that Clayton McLeod is in. He's putting Michael A. Overbay under pressure. Just a small gap between them. And these cars are of course getting lighter and lighter, getting closer to their pit stop. Well, looking at the pit stop, I would say this is the point that you want to make an overtake, but Michael A. Overbay opts to get in and visit his pit crew this lap.
Very slow coming up to the pit entry cones there. I think there's a lot of time to be gained or lost at pit entry, especially when it comes to a Formula 1 car.
Yeah, especially. We're curious to see where he exactly comes out. He of course was in that battle, the lead car in that battle for P4. And if you can stay in front of some other cars, if you make sure that he doesn't come into traffic, he will help. That will help him in his fight with the rest of the field. Coming out now, looking behind him. There's not a lot of traffic, so it seems like Michael A. Overbay will come out in the gap and has some free air to drive his next laps.
Yeah, well, the good news for Overbay with that regards is that we're right at the halfway point of the race, and that's why you see pit road was getting very busy behind him with the likes of Kevin Mills in, Sam Winton in, Reed Miller's made a pit stop, and I have a feeling that, to be honest, Johan, even the drivers we didn't see in this lap will probably be in either this lap or next.
Kevin Mills comes out, and he comes out just behind Lucas Pironi. That undercut that Lucas tried coming into the pits earlier has worked for the driver. He's just in front of him. They almost came out side by side, but the French driver had more speed coming out of the source, and he has made the overtake stick. So Lucas Pironi overtakes Kevin Mills.
Ronald Overbay is officially out of a race. Clayton McLeod is currently ranked in 14th position, and into the pits comes Modal, who's been having a quiet, but what? Commentator curse there. He lit up the tyres coming in pit entry, grazes the front wing on pit wall. I'm sure, and he's weaving it back and forth to make sure the toe's still okay on the car. I wouldn't be surprised if he has to spend a couple of extra seconds in his pit stall here getting the new front wing fitted.
Let's go to a replay of that moment, of course, because that's not something that you will. Of course, we have seen Formula 1 drivers make mistakes like that in the past and hit the pit wall on entry, but especially because Clemens Model was quite comfortably driving in P3. It'd be a shame for the driver. Oh, there, yeah, he did hit the wall with his left wheel tire. That might have damaged him a little bit. It would be a shame for him.
That's why you see him doing the weave in there. They just see...
Sorry, for P3, Antonio Ortiz Poveda is trying to move on Robert Grosser. He's making a stick in reverse here. Robert Grosser, who was very loose coming into Lecombe, lost a lot of momentum there, and the Iberian driver immediately pounced on that and makes the overtake stick, currently in P3.
I'm not sure that's good news for either of them, though, Johan, because that's going to cost them both time against... it was the driver they were racing.
Yeah, they will both lose time against Overbay and Clemens Model. Let's go to an overtake of the incident. You can see very slow from the corner Robert Grosser and the black car behind him, Antonio Ortiz Poveda, capitalizing on that, sending it on the inside here. This is another place where you see a lot of overtakes, especially during the race. Maybe in the opening lap you see them, but not during the race. Great move there from Antonio, making his way to P3.
Great move. But how much does it cost him? Because as you mentioned, these two have been in that battle with Overbay. Were they able to go around another lap? So they've been running around high 149s, low 1 minute 50s. Doesn't look, well, as they cross the line that time by, doesn't look like Poveda lost a lot of time, but Grosser did. He lost a couple of seconds.
Yeah, that makes sense because of course he almost overshot himself, almost had to go through the grass into Lecombe, and he has lost time there, as you can see in his lap time. The battle for P10 is heating up as well. That's between Dave Peterson, I think, and Sam Winton. Yeah, coming towards Stavolo at the moment, very close together. Sam Winton just on the rear of Dave Peterson there. Now with the draft, he will probably work his way forward. Blanchimont, we've seen Max Verstappen make a move here a few seasons ago. Sam Winton doesn't try it. He actually loses a little bit because he stays behind him, he brakes a little bit. Dave Peterson stays in front for now.
Yeah, I also recall a pretty hefty shunt involving Eddie Irvine and Luciano Berti, I believe it was 2001 here at Spa, that show you why passes at Blanchimont are not always a good idea.
Exactly.
And our leader coming into the pits. Go ahead, Johan.
Joseph Fabian coming into the pits. Well, I think that Joseph Fabian will be safe from the rest of the field. Floris Bizar might lead a few laps if he opts to stay out for now. Let's see. Floris Bizar actually doesn't. Floris Bizar also comes in the pits. But I think that no matter what happens, Joseph Fabian had a lead of over 12 seconds, almost 13 seconds coming over the start-finish line last time around. He's really dominating once again, just like he did last week at Suzuka. He's also dominating here in the Ardennes Forest.
And the other good news for Fabian is, well, he probably knew already, but confirmation there that he sees Clayton McLeod sitting in his pit stall with a damaged car. This is going to be a huge day in the points for Joseph Fabian if he can keep it going to the end.
Yeah, and I would almost say that, hey, Joseph Fabian, we have a new race leader because Antonio Ortiz Poveda didn't choose to make a pit stop yet, but the gap that Joseph had was so big. But even though Antonio didn't make a pit stop, Joseph comes ahead of him still. Robert Grosser, the driver in P4, also makes his pit stop. Now let's keep an eye on him. That's Robert Grosser, currently in P4, because where's Michael A. Overbay? They're very close. Robert Grosser gets moving when Michael A. Overbay is on the start-finish line. Going through the source, he will have a little bit more speed. Robert Grosser is already coming out of the pits, and that's a gap that Michael A. Overbay has lost by making an earlier pit stop, several seconds between him and Robert, with Robert being hit.
Yeah, so the overcut working in these not necessarily old F1 cars, but dated F1 cars where refueling was a thing, where you're actually gaining a bit of an advantage out there on lighter fuel. And I have a feeling that Johan, these cooler temperatures aren't really abusing the tyres a whole lot, so lighter fuel load is making a bigger difference than piston tyres.
Yeah, well, we've seen both, of course. We saw Lucas Pironi speaking about him. Kevin Mills, we see here leading this free-car battle for P9. We saw Lucas Pironi, of course, making an undercut and then actually overtaking Kevin Mills. So if you are a lot quicker than the driver in front of you. In this battle, Kevin Mills, Dave Peterson and Sam Winton. This is the battle for P9 at the moment.
Fabian is off. Our race leader on cold tyres gets it run over in bus stop. He had such a big lead over Poveda even that he's able to recover and still lead the race. But definitely not what the driver of that 3 was hoping for.
No, we can see it here on the replay, just looping himself around in the bus stop chicane. That's not the first time that we've seen that out there on track, but losing over 3 seconds to Floris Bizar, still in front of him, and wonder what that will do with the confidence of Joseph Fabian. Of course, dominating last week, dominating this week until the moment, but the cracks are showing a little bit by mistakes like that. He really has to keep his cool and just continue with what he was doing, because he was much quicker than the rest of the field. But if he keeps making mistakes like this, that will give Floris Bizar a chance.
Alright, let's go back to this battle for 9th, because it's really heating up as they come to the bus stop. But Peterson has a nice run on Mills. He has to back out of it. His run was too strong, too early, and so they will hold station. Winton, oh no, then won't. Peterson very deep under the brakes.
Yeah, almost hitting Kevin Mills there, and Sam Winton just opting out, braking on the curbstones, and almost overshot the corner because of that. All the cars stretching out from each other immediately. And as you said, Dave Peterson really taking a look there on the inside of Kevin Mills and trying a move. Now Sam Winton, wow, that's a really good exit from Sam Winton. Will they go side by side through Eau Rouge? You can do it, of course, side by side. Sam Winton just keeps it there, side by side. Beautiful move there from Sam Winton. Incredible, courageous stuff. And Dave Peterson behind him has to give in, and he loses the position.
That's a nice thing about sim racing, isn't it? Your neck's not on the line.
Exactly, you don't have to pay the bill once you cross. But still, that was a great move from Sam Winton, just putting it side by side there, just to keep the throttle floor there and try that move. That's really courageous stuff. Sam Winton, at the moment he almost loops himself around to reverse. Kevin Mills is off. Sorry, Kevin Mills is off. Our driver in P9. Lacombe and just on throttle, hard hit with the tires. On throttle in Lacombe, he just, something we saw with other drivers as well. And it seems like his race is over.
Not in a hurry to move. That 104 car is still sitting there. Now, one thing about iRacing, the sim does not, it will show local yellows, but it doesn't enforce them. If you set a fast sector time while there's a car off track or make a pass, you still, you won't get penalised for it. Now he finally takes the tow to the pits. How much fuel did Pavetta have in this sim?
I think he completely filled it up because he's still going strong at the moment. But looking at his lap times, he is starting to slow down a little bit. He's driving 49s at the moment. He, of course, was fighting with Robert Grosser, who's also doing 49s at the moment, so they'll probably get out side by side if they make a pit stop. Joseph Fabian, last time around, once again did his fastest lap of the race. I said maybe that spin might have hurt his confidence, but I don't think so, because he actually reached the 47s last time around, and 1:47.9. That's the quickest lap we've seen all race long.
And in the world of 21st century modern day technology, as Pavetta finally comes in, we are getting confirmation from Clayton McLeod on our YouTube chat right now that he is out of a race. So that means our championship leader will be able to do no better than 14th today. What is Pavetta going to be able to do? He should have a quick pit stop here, considering he doesn't have to put a lot of fuel to get to the end.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on Robert Grosser at the same time, and also Clemens Motto, who's not that far ahead of him. This is, of course, the battle for P3. Antonio Ortiz Pavetta, like you say, Sam, can stay in the pits lots shorter, already rolling. Look at the cars behind him. Clemens Motto is braking at the moment for La Source, but Antonio Ortiz Pavetta is already out, going full throttle for a roost. The Iberian driver will stay in P3.
So very nice strategy call and driving by Pavetta on a day where we've seen a lot of people lighting up the rear tyres and getting into all out of turns like the bus stop and Lacombe's. Pavetta was able to nurse those one set of tyres for 20 laps with a very heavy fuel load, and it looks like it's going to pay off with a nice podium finish if I haven't just jinxed it.
Exactly. In the meantime, Dave Peterson almost looped his car around the bus stop chicane. Safety, however, didn't spin or hit the wall, but he has lost quite a bit of seconds to Sam Winton, who he was fighting with. On screen, Clemens Motto and Robert Grosser very, very close together. The German, Robert Grosser, is half a second behind him, and I'm curious, I'm looking at the lap times. It seems like he's dropping off a little bit. 150s, he can drive 49s. Is he being held up by Clemens Motto? I think so. Clemens Motto is also dropping off a little bit. He was driving 49s at the end of his first stint, but at the moment he's driving middle 50s and low 51s.
And Kevin Mills has now officially retired from the race. Leaves us with just 12 cars racing, and all of them still on the lead lap. A great job by everyone still out here. Not only the still be out there racing, but to have decent pace today. This battle for fourth is where it's at right now, though, because Grosser very late on the brakes as they entered the bus stop chicane, and Model just able to hold on to the position.
Good defensive moves from Model there, just defend the inside. It's really difficult to make a move around the outside of the bus stop chicane, and Model knew that and defended accordingly. It's a little bit loose on the exit though of La Source, and that might give an opportunity to Robert Grosser. Once again, we've seen this time and time again. It's a very long run towards Lacombe with a lot of draft, a lot of momentum that you will have here out of Rabion, and a lot of opportunities to just claw your way towards the car in front of you. It's really pulling you, and you can see Robert Grosser just getting closer and closer. Modo in front of him defends the inside. Moves back a little bit, but stays in front of him through Lacoon. But he has made up all the gap, all the deficit that he had lost through the bus stop.
Yeah, I think Modo would just say he was retaking the racing line there for that turn, but either way, it looked like, honestly, I think what this is a result of, Johan. I almost wonder if Modo is carrying a little bit less downforce than Grosser, because we've seen cars in the position that Grosser is in right now have much better runs, and you see now they're in the twisty part of the circuit. And it would make sense that Modo is carrying less downforce right now, because Grosser definitely seems to be performing better in the turns.
Yeah, Clemens Modo, you could see it on screen there, almost losing his car there in Pouhon, hitting the curb stones quite hard and getting very loose over them. He did manage to save it, however, but as you could say, if he runs less downforce, this is where he probably has to make the difference. It seems that Robert Grosser in the draft will get closer. Now he doesn't have to brake earlier in Blanchemont. He stays behind him, tries it once again around the outside of the bus stop chicane, brakes later, very courageous. If you can keep it there, beautiful move. Clemens Modo doesn't have an answer to that. Tries it on the exit, up another brake, gets very loose on throttle. And that's Clemens Modo that has to give way to Robert Grosser, who retakes P4.
So we were watching the, and into the wall goes Modo. He was just trying a little bit too hard. He looks like he might have been able to get away with this one. No, he's going to tow it to the pits. Too much damage on that 93 McLaren Marlboro painted machine.
Yeah, probably just got a little bit irritated that he lost that P4 position. Really gave it everything to have a good exit out of resource and try to take the position back on the run down towards Lacoon, but just, yeah, as you can see on screen, too much effort, looping himself around into the wall. That's quite a bit of damage to his front wing and probably his front suspension.
So then there were 11 with just 6 laps left to go. Joseph Fabian leading them around, Floris Bichard in second place. Those two have a huge gap back to Poveda in third and Grosser in fourth. Those two have been battling Overbay for most of the race. Well, he is in fifth, but quite a little ways behind them right now. The incident for Modo will move Reed Miller up into 6th place after having started 14th, so he's had a nice day today. Lucas Pironi running in 7th place ahead of Sam Winton will move up to 8th once the order cycles through for Modo being in the pits. Dave Peterson will be running 9th ahead of Jacob Karszewicz, will be rounding out top 10. And the last car on the lead lap and in the race is Christoph Buzzy, who was up there early on, but has run into trouble since then, currently back in 11th place.
Especially Dave Peterson is probably quite happy with that. Of course, he didn't set a qualifying time, so he only started in 19th position. He has made up 10 positions so far in the race, so if Dave can keep it on track and brings it home in the position he's currently in, he will score his first top 10 result of the season.
So as we're entering the closing stages, obviously, what this means now, Johan, when we go into Lagos next week for round number 5, is your points will start counting. Of course, you can always use the excuse for the opening 4 rounds of the season. Hey, these could be my 4 drop weeks. It's not a very good strategy to have. Obviously, you want to get your championship campaign off to a good start. But with just 12 races in the season, we're very soon going to be approaching the halfway point. Then, of course, round 8 comes up not too long after that. And so you really want to establish yourself as a good points contender early on. And Joseph Fabian, I would say, is doing exactly that.
Exactly, you want to have the luxury of just being able to drop your worst results. And with worst results, I don't mean the results of the days that you don't show up. You want to, I don't know, be able to drop off all your P2 or P3 results because you've won 8 races. So it is important to be consistent and to show up every time and to get the best result that you can. Especially Joseph Fabian is just showing that at the moment. The driver has won, of course, last week in Suzuka. He wasn't there in the Nürburgring, so that was, of course, one of his drop weeks. But also in Silverstone, in the opening round of the season, he did manage to get a podium result. So P2, a P1, and a P1 after drop weeks. That is not a bad start of the season for Joseph Fabian, who I think also will get the lead if we don't calculate drop weeks yet, going towards Interlagos.
Yeah, and that was Christoph Buzzy. You saw him going the lap down just a little while ago. Buzzy hasn't had the cleanest race out there today, but a lot of drivers sitting in the pits who would like to be in Buzzy's position right now, still out there running on track, turning laps around this glorious Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Of course, there's always the issue of fatigue when we get to the end of these races, especially when there's not a whole lot of battles left out there on track, although I think we have one shaping up for ninth position, perhaps? No, it broke up a little bit. So the battles have indeed broken up out here on the circuit. The nice thing about this track, though, Johan, is it's enjoyable to drive. I have a feeling it's a lot easier to get bored and make mistakes out there when you're at a track you really don't want to be at, but for a lot of these drivers, they enjoy the circuit so much, they'll quite happily just run 3 more good solid laps to get the checkered flag.
Absolutely. If I started driving a new car on iRacing, I usually take a circuit like Spa-Francorchamps because it's just one of the most enjoyable circuits to drive. You have very quick corners where you have to be courageous, like Rouge, where Floris Bissar, who we're on board with, is currently going towards. You have Pouhon, where downforce is really important. You have long straights. You have basically everything in this track. It's just enjoy to drive. So I don't think that, even though the battles are going to the last 4 laps of the race, the drivers will get bored out there today.
Of course, next week, as we mentioned, we'll be going to Interlagos, another Grand Prix circuit that is on the iRacing server. Christoph Buzzy, I believe, a driver running a lap down, just put a couple wheels off, and he's still out there though, circulating on the track, so no harm, no foul.
Stephen Couty, we were just on board with Floris Bissar, with the Gap driver, Gap SRT driver, who's currently in P2. This is his second race, of course, in this season. Last week he was here as well in Suzuka, where he also got a second place position. So I wanted to say also a good strong start from Floris Bissar for this season with 2 podium results. Of course, the first 2 races he will use his drop weeks, but starting the season with 2 podium positions, that's not a bad way to start your championship battle.
We might have one more battle brewing before we drop the checkered flag here today, and that is for 7th place, with Lucas Pironi being ran down by about a second a lap from Sam Winton. And if these two battle too hard, it could bring Dave Peterson into the mix as well.
And especially when you know as a driver there's only 3 more laps to go, like Sam Winton knows at the moment, it just motivates you so much more. When you see that the gap shrinks down by a second per lap, you really get more focused, really red mist falls over your eyes, you just get into the mood, into the rhythm of just knowing to drive this lap as perfectly as possible and work your way back. Last time around he did a 157, Lucas Pironi did a 159, so I should say 0.8 per lap quicker. If he continues like this, Sam, he will be on the rear of Lucas Pironi during the last lap.
Likewise, 4th place might not necessarily be decided yet. Grosser has been running slightly slower than Overbay. And if Overbay can catch a whiff of that slipstream in the last couple of laps, that position could be up for grabs. 4th place.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's see. Lucas Pironi is going over start-finish line as we speak. Let's see what kind of lap times they are doing. Lucas Pironi last time around did a 150.0. Sam Winton did a 149.9. Lucas Pironi might be picking up the pace a little bit. But Sam Winton is just putting him under all the pressure that he has left in his Williams car.
And Pavetta hard into the wall, exiting No Name. He'd been running a clean, solid 3rd place. And now has thrown it away. A bit too complacent here in the closing stages.
Yeah, just gets too much of the exit AstroTurf, just hits it too hard and his car gets loose, is not able to save it anymore. We're on the replay with that moment. It's not in this corner yet, it's in the next one. You can see that his right hand tires just go too wide, too much over the AstroTurf. Car gets loose, not able to save it, hits the wall hard, and he's still standing still. That's the race over for Antonio Ortiz-Poveda. Robert Grosser is probably liking that a lot because he has elevated himself to P3 now after starting in P6. It's a good race from the DH driver. Michael Overbay has lost the connection to him. He was putting him under pressure, but he has to probably halt his move forward with P4.
Just 2 laps left to go now as Grosser and Overbay come to the line. And also with them seeing Poveda skate off like that right in front of them, granted about 5 seconds up the road or so, probably making them both think, hey, I don't want to do that. So this battle that was for 7th will now be for 6th place with Winton slowly reeling in Peroni. They're about to get the 2 to go.
Oh no, Lucas Peroni hits the curb zone too hard in the bus stop chicane, loops himself around. That's easy pickings for Sam Winton, and also Dave Peterson behind him goes by. Yeah, the Italian losing, or the French driver losing 2 positions because of that. We go to a replay of the incident. As you can see, he was giving it everything he had, and he just hits the curb zone too hard in the inside of the bus stop chicane. Car gets loose, car gets destabilized, and loops it around. And that's of course one of the things that you have to do in these races are long. They are shorter than real Formula 1 races, only 200 kilometers the drivers do, but it's still a long race where you almost go an hour. So at the end of the race you're getting tired, you get lapses in concentration. You see the drivers are starting to make small mistakes, with both Antonio and Lucas losing positions in the last few laps.
Yeah, obviously it wasn't as costly there for that spin we just saw over in the bus stop, but we're keeping half an eye on this battle for 3rd. It's still 3 seconds between them as long as Grosser can keep it on the grey stuff. I have a feeling he should easily be able to come home with this position over Overbay. And it looks like even if Fabian goes for a spin again in the bus stop, he should be able to pick off this victory here today. We call the one mistake, the one error we've seen out of a driver of this number 3 machine was down there at the bus stop a little while ago. He's still got that to navigate, but with 15 seconds, or 16 seconds now of clean track behind him, back to Floris Bichner in 2nd place. It looks like another victory about to come Joseph Fabian's way. And definitely, if he hadn't already, definitely now a true contender for this championship. As he makes his way through the final couple of turns, Joseph Fabian is going to win the Batteries Not Included Championship Round 4 here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps.
Behind him, Floris Bichner is coming towards the bus stop chicane as well. He's 41 seconds in front of P3 Robert Grosser, and I think that Floris Bichner can be very happy. He took the maximum out of the car that he could today, and he finishes in P2 in Spa.
Now we catch up with Robert Grosser, who looks like he'll come home as our 3rd podium finisher. Both himself and Overbay up 3 positions from where they started, so I'm sure they'll both be pleased with that. I'm sure Overbay would be even more pleased if he was the one standing on the podium. But still a good race for even their car numbers are sequential, 19 and 20. Here comes Grosser across the finish line, 3rd place, and Overbay just a couple seconds behind him, 4th.
Reed Miller behind him is also going through the bus stop chicane, starting all the way in P14. A great race from Miller there, gaining 9 positions in the process. And he comes home, the last driver in the top 5.
Rounding out the top 10 here. In fact, the tail end of our top 10 going to be covered by about 15 seconds as Sam Winton finishing about 5 seconds up the road from Dave Peterson. And then, actually, wow, as Peroni ran out of fuel on the last lap. He's not going to make it to the line. He was running in 8th, but he has stopped on track. And so Karshowicz will get 8th. And I think Peroni put enough fuel in it to get to the finish line.
Exactly. Well, we of course made a very early pit stop to try that undercut on Kevin Mills, but a little bit too little fuel and not enough to make it home. So Lucas Peroni coming home in P9.
All right, well, we'll give you the full finish in order in just a couple of moments here on the GSRC, and we'll have a couple of drivers here to interview. We'll be back in a moment on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hello and welcome back to the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, Belgium, where we just witnessed round 4 of a batteries not included championship here on the Global SimRacing Channel. And when the checkered flag fell, the leader was Joseph Fabian. In fact, pretty much for the entire race, the leader was Joseph Fabian. And likewise, in second place, Floris Bichnar held that down for most of the race. Grosjean and Overbay both picked up 3 positions from where they started to come home in 3rd and 4th. Reed Miller picked up 9 positions from where he started to come home in 5th. Behind him, Sam Winton had a good race in 6th place. Likewise for Dave Peterson back in 7th. Jacob Karshowicz was gifted 8th at the end when Lucas Peroni ran out of fuel on the final lap while running in 8th. He will be ranked as our first car lap down in 9th. Christoph Buzzi, the only other car 1 lap down, in 10th.
Yeah, and then there's a whole list of cars that didn't see the finish flag. Antonio Ortiz Poveda, the Iberian driver that was on his way to a podium result, looped it around 3 laps before the end. He is classified in P11. Clemens Model also was fighting for a podium position. He is only coming home in P12. Kevin Mills, who had an impressive run early in the race, saw his hopes today ended in Lecun. Classified in 13th position. Clayton McLeod, our championship leader, didn't have a good run out here in Belgium. Finishes in 14th position. Ronald Overbay comes home 1 position behind him in 15th, in front of Silvio Hirt, Johnny Bell and Daniel Lechner. Marcus Gestal, one of the many drivers that had problems in the opening laps, comes home in 19th position, just in front of Edgar Sancinelli. And the last driver classified today is Stefan Henkel, 21st.
Well, Joseph, You took pole position, you took a win, you led almost the entire race, if not the entirety of it. However, it wasn't a flawless race. You did have that scary moment in the middle of a race over the bus stop.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, I've had a few. That was obviously the spin was the worst moment. I had a few mistakes in there. Generally either getting a bit loose or going a bit deep because I've struggled at that corner. I think everywhere else I'm very comfortable, but that one corner is really tough, and it doesn't help also being the last last corner on the track. In qualifying, I messed up some laps through there, doing a good lap, and then going a bit too deep or hitting a curb too hard. But other than that, I think it was quite clean. Not as clean as last week, but it was good enough.
We've seen you at 3 of the 4 races so far this year, and you've dominated the last 2. You were second at Silverstone, but I mean, do you think we're going to see more of this as the season goes on? Definitely seems that you are the force to be reckoned with out there right now.
I think I had 4 good tracks to start the season. I mean, I didn't get to race in Germany, Nürburgring, but I think I was quite good there as well in practice. But going forward, I think the middle part of the season, looking at it, it's going to be tough. Some tracks I haven't raced at or not in a long time, and then there's a few others which I've generally kind of avoided because I find it very hard to finish the races there. So we could have some hard time coming forward. I got a bit of an advantage, so if I can, still manage to at least keep it on the podium for those races, I'll be happy. And then I think the end of the season will probably be a bit stronger looking at the tracks.
All right, well, we look forward to seeing you back in action next weekend at Interlagos, Joseph. Congratulations on your victory here today. Well earned, and we hope you had fun out there.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, well, that was our race winner, Joseph Fabian. Standing next to him on the podium, Johan, you've called up with Floris Bischoff.
Yeah, Floris, welcome to the booth. You qualify P2. You finished P2. Does it feel like you really got the maximum out here today?
Well, pretty much, yes, with Joseph on the field. I mean, he was just gone after a couple of laps. I mean, I saw the rear of his car for like the first 5, and then he just disappeared off into the distance, and that was pretty much that. I might have had a chance to get past him at turn 1 because I had a pretty decent start, but then something happened, and I kind of had the rear step out. But yeah, no, Joseph was just in a league of his own, almost literally. I was kind of looking forward to racing with Clayton, but he was dropping back and suddenly he disappeared. So I'm not really sure what happened there because I haven't had a chance to look at the replay yet. But yeah, what happened?
Yeah, Clayton had a moment during the middle of the race where he spun himself and hit the wall. Now, that's something that we actually saw a lot during this broadcast. Of course, the weather was quite cold in this session. We saw a lot of drivers just spinning it, especially when they went on the throttle. Was that something that was extra difficult out there today because of the temperature that it was easier to spin the car? Or is it just this track that makes it more easy?
I think it's a combination of factors, really. But yeah, I didn't really particularly struggle with wheel spin, except coming out of the bus stop once, I think, and I pretty much nailed the brake at the right time and just kept going after that. But yeah, this is definitely something you need to watch out for in this car, especially in lower temperatures. But it's not something I really struggle with at this track. So yeah, I think it might be a combination of factors, just people not being as used to the car as some of the other drivers might be. I don't really know.
But you at least come home in P2 here. Looking forward to, for example, next week. Are there any tracks that you say like, oh, that is a track that I feel really confident in, and that's a track that I might be able to beat Joseph, and next week we go to Interlagos? Is that a place where you will be able, you think, to beat him?
Well, Interlagos is a fun track for me because it was when I first started racing the official iRacing Grand Prix series, that was the first track that I actually raced at officially, which was a full-length Grand Prix race, which is kind of intimidating at the time. But it's the track I arguably have the most experience with in iRacing in this car. But then again, that was in 2015, so I don't really know.
You don't lose experience, eh? You keep experience.
Well, yes, that's true, but We'll have to wait and see. I mean, Joseph really does have an awful lot of pace, and I'm really curious to see how far off his pace I'm going to be, if at all. But yeah, looking forward to that.
Very good. Well, you finished today in P2. Enjoy the champagne. Van harte gefeliciteerd, as we would say in Belgium and the Netherlands. And we hope to see you again next week.
Yeah.
That was Floris Bizar coming in P2 out there today. Now, in the meantime, you have caught up with P3, Sam.
Yeah, Robert Grosser, you had a nice battle going on all race long there with Michael Overbay and Antonio Poveda, and at the end of the day, you were the one who came out on top, so congrats.
Thank you very much. That was really great fun, I have to say.
You started in 6th place, you finished in 3rd. Did you know that you had that kind of pace in you, or are you surprised to be here on the podium?
I'm a bit surprised, to be honest. I mean, I had a very nice start. I think I was P4 when going into turn 1. Then I was a bit... I felt not very comfortable having a car on both sides of my car, so I went a bit wide, lost the places again. And then I had these battles with Michael, later on also with Clemens and Antonio. And I think before the pit stop, I was lacking a bit of the pace to really challenge them. But after the pit stop, it really went into my favor. And it was a bit surprising to finish P3, but I take it.
Oh, a bit surprising. Do you think you could... well, a bit surprising for you say, but do you think you can do it again next week at Interlagos?
Yeah, well, Interlagos is one of my favorite tracks. So, well, let's say I will aim for a top 5, and everything better than that is like the cream on the cake.
All right, well, congrats on a great race out there today, Robert, and we look forward to seeing you back in action.
Thank you very much, and thanks for doing a great job broadcasting this.
All right, so Johan, we are now 4 races into the season. We have had our first repeat winner of the season, Joseph Fabian, but he's admitting, although he might just be telling his competitors not to paint the target on his rear end too big, he's admitting that some hard rounds are coming up for him, so who knows what championship turns we could be seeing in the upcoming rounds.
I want to believe him that that's the case, and I think that the rest of the field wants to believe him that he is going to have a few hard races coming up. But man, after dominating 2 races like this in a row, I do think that Joseph Fabian has painted the target on his back, not by his comments after the race, but by his comments during the race. Just these lap times, this speed, he's the guy to beat the coming weeks.
And you will get to see the next race here at Interlagos, right here on the Global SimRacing Channel, same time next Saturday. We would like to thank Clayton McLeod, as well as the organisers and the competitors of the Batteries Not Included Championship, for coming out here this morning and putting on a fantastic show. We would also like to thank all of the companies that provide us with the software and hardware that we use during our broadcasts, and you can see those all listed on your screen. Additional thanks goes out to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide us with our music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Sean and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can visit us at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at facebook.com/globalsimracingchannel, and Instagram at GSRC_gram. All of the upcoming races for our other series are listed on screen, so check those out, mark them down on your calendar, and don't miss another second of exciting racing action. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on track.